In a solemn live broadcast, Erica Kirk shared painful words from her 3-year-old daughter following the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. "Mommy, where's Daddy?" That question resonated across the nation. Vice President JD Vance, standing at her side, fought to maintain his composure as Americans grieved with the Kirk family. This moment revealed the power of a child's innocent voice and the deep response it drew nationwide. The studio was crowded with lights, cameras, and reporters. Yet for a few heavy seconds, silence prevailed. The country had been waiting, anxious to hear from the woman whose life had been shattered just 3 days earlier. Erica Kirk approached the podium, dressed in black, her face pale but steady. She gripped the lectern firmly, as though drawing strength from it. Behind her, Vice President Vance stood with his head lowered, eyes filled with restrained tears. The audience felt the gravity of what was unfolding. The headlines had already told the story. Charlie Kirk assassinated at Utah Valley University. People knew about the suspect, the manhunt, the arrest, but none of that compared to hearing directly from Erica. She cleared her throat, her voice shaking but resolute. "Good evening. My name is Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband." Those simple words broke through to millions. It became clear this was not only about politics or tragedy. It was about family, love, and the pain of a child's question that no parent ever wants to answer. As Erica continued, her voice faltered briefly. She paused, drew a deep breath, and pressed on. "Our daughter is only 3 years old," she whispered. "And yesterday she looked up at me and asked, 'Mommy, where's Daddy?'" The room froze. Vance closed his eyes, his jaw tight as though bracing himself. Even seasoned reporters who had covered wars felt their eyes sting with tears. The innocence of that question carried unbearable weight, too pure and too devastating. Erica's voice cracked as she explained how she had answered. "I told her, baby, Daddy loves you so much. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can take care of your blueberry budget." She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. Across living rooms in America, families cried. Mothers held their children closer. Fathers lowered their heads, mourning the loss of a man taken too soon. Vance finally raised his head, his face wet with tears. He had endured political battles, threats, and storms in Washington, but nothing had broken him like those 3 words. "Where's Daddy?" When Erica shared this part of her story, the room seemed to collapse under the weight of grief. Cameras turned toward Vance, who for once appeared less like a political leader and more like a grieving friend. He stepped forward, placed a hand gently on Erica's shoulder, and addressed the crowd. His voice was unsteady. "I don't think I've ever heard anything more heartbreaking," he said softly. "Erica is strong, but she carries a broken heart. And America," his voice faltered, "we must keep her in our prayers." The room was still, except for the quiet hum of cameras. Vance was not giving a political statement. He spoke as a man mourning a friend, as someone deeply tied to the Kirk family. "Charlie Kirk was more than an activist," Vance continued, his voice steadier. "He was a husband, a father, a believer, and a fighter for America. And we will not let his mission end." The reaction was not applause, but tears. The broadcast reached every corner of the nation. From small-town diners in Ohio to busy households in Texas, families sat in silence, moved by Erica's words. Her voice echoed through televisions, radios, and countless online streams. To many, it felt as though she was speaking directly to them. When she repeated her daughter's question, "Mommy, where's Daddy?" millions broke down. Some prayed, others held their children, and many wept openly. Vice President Vance shifted behind her, wiping away tears he could no longer contain. In that moment, he was not acting as a politician, but as a friend. Social media filled instantly with messages. "This is unbearable. I'm crying with her. God bless Erica and her little girl." For once, politics faded. What mattered was a family's pain and a child's voice echoing across America. Viewers understood this was not just another press conference. It was history being witnessed. Despite her grief, Erica did not waver. She lifted her chin, her voice still trembling, and began thanking those who had supported her family. She acknowledged officers who tried to save Charlie, first responders who risked their lives, and law enforcement who captured his killer. Each word felt like a prayer in the silence. Behind her, Vance nodded in agreement, his expression reflecting gratitude. Erica's words carried weight not because of rhetoric, but because they came from a widow who had just buried her husband. She placed a hand over her heart. To every staffer at Turning Point, to every young American who called Charlie their mentor, know this: you were his family too. Her voice cracked, but she pressed forward, determined to remain steady. This was more than a speech. It was testimony of love, faith, and conviction. Reporters in the room lowered their pens, some bowing their heads in respect. After a pause, Vance stepped forward again. His voice was low, carrying sorrow. "I have sat in the halls of power, but none of them felt as sacred as this moment tonight," he said. Looking at Erica, he added, "What she shared is not just a wife honoring her husband. It's a mother trying to explain the unexplainable to her child. And that question, 'Where's Daddy?' I will never forget it." His voice cracked as cameras captured a tear rolling down his cheek. "Charlie loved America," he continued. "But above all, he loved his family. That was who he was. A husband, a father, a man of faith." The room stayed silent. Vance's words were not political lines. They were expressions of loss. He clasped Erica's hand gently and whispered, just loud enough for microphones to catch, "You are not alone." Millions watching felt the same. Erica steadied herself and returned to the microphone. Her hands shook slightly, but her words were firm. "2 days ago, my husband went to see the face of his savior," she said, her tone heavy with grief and conviction. "Charlie always said he wanted to be remembered for his courage and his faith." She paused, her lips trembling. Cameras captured her eyes brimming with tears. Behind her, Vance rested a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Charlie loved this country," she continued. "But most of all, he loved his children. He loved me, and he showed it every day, in every word and every sacrifice." Across America, people leaned closer to their screens. This was not only a widow speaking, it was a mother and believer promising to continue her husband's mission. "His mission will not end. I will carry it forward. His voice will remain. His wisdom will endure." The studio seemed almost sacred. Reporters who had come for quotes now wiped their eyes, unable to contain their emotions. Millions at home felt the same. Online, comment sections filled instantly. "I've never cried this hard. God bless Erica. God bless her children. Charlie Kirk will not be forgotten." Outside the studio, crowds gathered with candles, their flames flickering in the night. When Erica's words were broadcast over loudspeakers, people bowed their heads, some praying, others weeping openly. Vance, still standing at her side, lifted his gaze to the cameras. His expression revealed sorrow, loyalty, and determination. America watched, not divided, but united in grief. This was more than news or politics. It was a nation grieving a family's loss. As Erica wiped her eyes, Vance spoke once more. His voice broke as he began. "Charlie wasn't just a friend to me. He was a brother." He paused, struggling to continue. The silence was piercing. Finally, pressing his hand to his chest, he said, "I have faced the battles of politics. I have seen hatred in Washington. But nothing prepared me for hearing Erica say what their little girl asked." His eyes welled with tears. "Where's Daddy?" A question no child should ever have to ask. The nation wept with him. Even those who had never agreed with Charlie's politics could not dismiss the humanity of the moment. Charlie lived for America, but above all, he lived for his family, Vance continued. "And as long as I serve as Vice President, I will stand by Erica, by their children, and by the mission Charlie gave his life to." He clasped Erica's hand again, this time firmly, a visible reminder to her and to the country that she would not walk this road alone. The room grew still as Erica's words deepened. She raised her Bible slightly, her hand trembling, and spoke with quiet resolve. One of Charlie's favorite verses was Ephesians 5:25. "Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." My husband lived that verse every single day. Her voice wavered but steadied. "Charlie laid down his life for me, for our children, and for the nation he so dearly loved. That is the kind of man he was. Across America, people bowed their heads, whispering prayers through tears. Vance leaned toward the microphone, visibly shaken. That verse is not just words. It's who Charlie was. His voice broke slightly before he stepped back, letting Erica continue. Scripture and grief merged into a moment so powerful even skeptics were silent. This was no longer a press conference, it was a vigil broadcast to millions of homes. Erica inhaled deeply, her shoulders rising under the weight of sorrow. Then her tone sharpened with determination. "The ones who took my husband thought they silenced him," she declared. "But they do not know what they've done. They have only lit a flame that cannot be put out." Her words struck with force. Viewers sat straighter, many crying harder, but also nodding in agreement. Charlie's mission of faith, patriotism, and love for America will grow stronger than ever. I will make certain of it. The camera cut to Vance, his face wet with tears yet filled with resolve. He whispered into the microphone, "And I will stand with her." Outside the studio, the crowd began chanting softly, "We will not forget. We will not forget." On social media, hashtags honoring Charlie Kirk surged worldwide. This was not just mourning. It was becoming a shared vow. Tributes poured in live. Broadcasts showed a haka performed by Maori Christians in London, a moment of silence in Poland's parliament, and candlelight vigils from California to New York. The world seemed to pause to honor one man's legacy. In Phoenix, outside Turning Point USA headquarters, thousands knelt in prayer, voices rising into the night sky. Inside, Erica pressed her hand over her heart. Charlie's voice will not die. His wisdom will endure. His love for this country will live on through each of you. Her eyes shone with tears. Vance stepped forward, voice low but firm. "We are seeing tonight what Charlie stood for. Faith, family, freedom. America will not let that go." The audience inside sobbed openly. Some clasped hands, others whispered prayers. On television screens across the nation, families wept together, bound in a moment that felt sacred. As Erica paused, her voice broke under the weight of grief. She placed both hands on the lectern and whispered, "I will never have the words to describe this loss." Her chest heaved as she struggled for composure. The silence in the room was heavy, as though millions were holding their breath with her. "I don't know what this means," she admitted, her eyes glistening. "I know God does, but I don't." Behind her, Vance closed his eyes, fighting to contain his tears. The camera zoomed on his trembling hand, gripping the podium. Erica lifted her chin and whispered, "But Charlie, I know you do." The crowd outside sobbed audibly. Her honesty was not weakness, it was truth. And for millions watching, it carried more weight than any prepared remarks. When Erica stepped back to catch her breath, Vance leaned forward again. His voice was hushed, yet the microphones carried every word. "America, I have stood in Congress. I have argued in courts. I have debated in the Senate, but nothing." He paused, his throat tight. "Nothing has ever broken me like hearing Erica tonight." His face collapsed as tears streamed freely. Her little girl asked, "Where's Daddy?" And Erica answered with love, even as her own heart was shattered. That is the strength of a mother. That is the courage of a wife. The audience inside and outside erupted in sobs. For a moment, Vance was not the vice president. He was a father, a friend, a man grieving. His authenticity pierced every screen, reaching into homes across America. Meanwhile, the nation reacted. Vigils and prayers spread, but so did outrage at those who mocked Charlie's death online. News flashed with headlines: Marine discharged after celebrating assassination. Educators fired over inflammatory posts. Grief was mixed with anger. Outside the studio, mourners held candles, while some also carried signs demanding accountability. Erica addressed it indirectly, her voice steady but firm. "To those who think his death is something to celebrate, I have only this. Love will win. You cannot kill what God has begun." Vance placed his hand on his chest, nodding firmly. Cameras caught the blend of sorrow and resolve. Across America, families echoed the same words: Charlie's mission will not end here. Erica steadied herself, her voice shifting from grief to conviction. The ones who killed my husband thought they silenced him. But let me tell you, she paused, her voice trembling but fierce. They only made him louder. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd outside. Candles glowing in the night. You cannot destroy faith. You cannot destroy love. And you will not destroy the mission Charlie gave his life for. Her voice carried like a call to arms. Vance nodded firmly behind her, gripping the podium. Across America, families felt the change. This was no longer only mourning, it was defiance. On social media, Charlie's mission will not die began trending instantly. For every tear Erica shed, determination sparked in those listening. It was not only a widow's vow, it was the start of something larger. When Erica stepped back again, Vance leaned in. His voice shook but carried warmth. Charlie wasn't just someone I worked with. He was someone I laughed with, prayed with, dreamed with. He paused, remembering. I'll never forget one night after a rally we sat in a diner until midnight. Charlie talked about nothing but his children. He said, "If I do nothing else but raise them to love God and love America, I'll have succeeded." JD's voice broke as tears fell. He gripped the lectern tightly. That's who Charlie was. That's why this loss cuts so deep. Because this nation didn't just lose an activist. We lost a father who gave everything he had to his family. Erica lowered her head, weeping silently, JD's words piercing her heart. The audience, both in the studio and across the nation, wept with them. Viewers noticed a figure in the front row, President Donald Trump. His face was solemn, his gaze fixed on Erica. He had not spoken, but his presence carried weight. Cameras briefly caught him wiping his eye, his usual fire tempered by grief. Erica looked toward him. "Mr. President, Charlie loved you, and he knew you loved him too." The words hung heavy. Trump nodded slowly, lips pressed tight. Vance placed his hand over his heart, visibly moved. Across the nation, Americans felt unity between leaders and citizens. Politics seemed far away. This was about faith, family, and the loss of a man taken too soon. The atmosphere grew so heavy, even anchors whispered, "I've never seen America like this before." The nation was broken, but breaking together as one. Erica's voice softened as she recalled one of her last talks with Charlie. Just days ago, before leaving for Utah, he asked me the same thing he always did. How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better father? Her shoulders shook, but she pressed on. That's who Charlie was. Even in the busiest moments, even with millions watching, his first thought was his family. Vance lowered his head, struggling to hold back tears. Cameras caught Trump nodding quietly, grief etched across his face. For viewers, the words cut deep. Husbands turned to their wives. Children embraced their parents. Erica's memory revealed not just the activist admired publicly, but the man who loved consistently and without pride. "He was a good man," she whispered. "And he still is. Because love does not die, even when life is taken." Across America, living rooms grew silent, broken only by quiet sobs and whispered prayers. Outside the studio, mourners pressed closer against the barricades. Their candles glowed brighter as Erica's words carried through speakers into the street. Some knelt in prayer, others sang hymns softly, voices blending into the night air. Parents lifted children onto their shoulders so they too could witness history. When Erica spoke of Charlie's love for family, couples held each other tighter, feeling the weight of her loss. And when she declared, "No one will ever forget my husband's name," the crowd instinctively answered, "Never, never." Their reply shook the air, nearly drowning out the reporters. News cameras turned to capture the moment. Ordinary Americans bound together in grief and defiance. JD Vance stepped back to the microphone, his voice unsteady. "What you see tonight is the America Charlie believed in. Not divided, not hateful, but one family standing together." Cheers and tears rose together. As Erica and JD spoke, broadcasts rippled across the world. International networks ran tributes. In London, the haka performed by Maui Christians replayed in honor of Charlie's courage. In Poland's parliament, lawmakers bowed their heads in silence. Even far beyond U.S. politics, headlines read, "A young father taken too soon. Inside the studio, reporters whispered updates. "We're seeing vigils in Dallas, Phoenix, Chicago, and Boston," one anchor said live. "This is spreading faster than we can cover it." Hearing the words in his earpiece, JD Vance turned to the cameras. "Charlie's message is crossing oceans tonight. Because truth, courage, and love are greater than any bullet." Erica closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek before she smiled faintly. The world was watching her husband's legacy come alive, and her vow was already taking root. For a long moment, she looked at her hands, then raised her eyes to the cameras. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "To my little girl, I know you're watching at home. Yesterday you asked me, 'Where's Daddy?'" The crowd outside hushed instantly. Millions watching leaned in closer. Erica's lips trembled. "Baby Daddy loves you so much. He's with Jesus now on a work trip in heaven, and he'll never stop loving you." "Not for a single moment!" JD Vance pressed his fist to his lips, visibly shaken as her words broke the nation's heart wide open. Parents watching clutched their children tighter, many weeping uncontrollably. The innocence of that 3-year-old's question echoed across homes, churches, and vigils throughout the country. Erica continued, her voice trembling yet strong. "One day you'll understand Daddy gave everything because he believed in God, in America, and in you. I'll make sure you grow up knowing the man he truly was." When Erica faltered, JD Vance stepped beside her, gently placing an arm around her shoulders and steadying her at the microphone. His voice heavy with emotion. "America, you've just heard the strength of a widow and the love of a mother. That little girl's words, 'Where's Daddy?' will stay with me for the rest of my life. Erica, you are not alone. This nation is with you. The president is with you, and I am with you." The cameras caught Erica leaning into his support, tears falling silently. For millions watching, that embrace spoke louder than any speech. Comment sections lit up instantly. "JD Vance is a man of heart. This is leadership through tears. I'm crying like a child right now." It was not politics. It was humanity, raw and unfiltered. Even as the vigil-like address unfolded, news tickers scrolled across TV screens. Marine fired after celebrating assassination. Teachers dismissed over offensive posts. The nation seethed. Commentators noted how some had mocked Charlie's death online, sparking swift backlash. Many who had never supported him still felt outrage at such cruelty. Outside, the crowd began chanting, "Love wins! Love wins!" as if to drown out the ugliness. Erica looked directly into the cameras, her voice firm. "To those who laugh at a widow's tears, I say this: your words may wound, but they will not break us. Because God's love, Charlie's mission, and America's heart are stronger." JD Vance nodded beside her, sorrow mixed with resolve. Viewers worldwide echoed the sentiment. This woman is pure strength. Evil cannot silence faith. The backlash no longer belonged to politics. It was moral, spiritual, and deeply human. Erica wiped her tears, her voice steadier now. "They thought killing my husband would silence him. They thought a bullet could stop a movement. But they were wrong." The room erupted in applause and tears. JD Vance lowered his head, visibly moved. "Charlie gave everything for faith, family, and freedom," Erica continued. "And I promise you this: I will carry his mission forward with every breath left in me." Her vow struck deep into the hearts of millions. Families whispered to their children that this was what true love and sacrifice looked like. Outside, a sea of candles lit up the night. On social media, hashtags like "For Charlie" and "Where is Daddy" trended worldwide. For many, this was no longer about politics. It was about holding on to love in despair. Erica stood not just as a widow, but as the voice of countless broken hearts. JD Vance stepped back, hand covering his face. Cameras caught him whispering what looked like a prayer. Lip readers later confirmed, "Lord, give me strength. Help me honor my friend." When he lifted his head, his eyes glistened, but his resolve was clear. "Charlie Kirk was not just a patriot," he said slowly. "He was my brother in this fight for America's soul. Erica, your strength tonight proves evil has not won. Not here, not now, not ever." Millions felt the raw honesty. This wasn't politics, it was grief shared in real time. Across churches, pastors paused sermons to play the broadcast live. Congregants wept in living rooms. Fathers explained to their sons what it means to stand for truth even in death. JD's voice shook but never broke, knowing Charlie would have wanted him strong. As Erica and JD stood side by side, the nation held its breath. Then a wave of unity spread. In New York, subway riders bowed their heads as the address played on phones. In Dallas, a church broke into amazing grace, live-streamed for all. In Arizona, children wrote, "Thank you, Charlie," in chalk on sidewalks. The 3-year-old's question, "Where's Daddy?" had become the heartbeat of a grieving nation. Commentators admitted they had never seen such raw truth from leaders and citizens together. "This isn't about politics anymore," one anchor whispered. "This is about America's soul." Erica looked into the cameras one last time, hand over her heart. "Charlie believed in you. Now I ask you, believe in what he stood for." JD Vance placed his hand over hers in agreement. The moment was so pure it froze time. Reporters lowered their microphones. Cameramen wiped tears as they zoomed in on Erica's trembling hands clutching her wedding ring. JD stepped forward again, pale but steady. "I've stood in war zones," he said quietly. "I've seen tragedy up close. But tonight I've never felt America more united than this moment." Outside, the crowd broke into prayer, voices rising into the night. At home, viewers muted TVs and wept. It felt as though the entire nation paused to breathe, to grieve, and to remember. In homes across the country, children leaned into their mother's arms and whispered, "Where's Daddy?" echoing Erica's daughter's words. Every parent felt the weight of that innocence. Across America, something extraordinary unfolded. At candlelight vigils in Phoenix, Dallas, and Boston, strangers held hands regardless of race or politics. In small towns, diners and fire stations dimmed their lights. In Poland's parliament, lawmakers bowed their heads once again after Erica's speech. In London, the Maui Christians gathered once more, their chants vibrating with grief and honor. JD Vance, overwhelmed, lowered his head and whispered before cameras, "Lord, bless this family. Bless this nation." The image of a vice president praying openly swept across the internet. Even skeptics admitted they couldn't hold back tears. Comment sections flooded. "This is the America I believe in. Charlie's mission lives on." For one night, divisions faded. The heartbeat of a widow and the question of a child brought a nation to its knees. As cameras prepared to cut, Erica raised her gaze once more. Her voice was soft, but it carried like thunder. "Charlie's voice may be gone, but his mission will never die. And to every young person listening, you are his legacy. Stand strong, live boldly, love deeply." JD Vance placed a hand on her shoulder, tears falling. Charlie's little girl asked, "Where's Daddy?" Tonight, America answers, "He's in heaven, and his mission lives in us." The screen faded to a sea of candles flickering like stars against the night. Millions sat frozen in their homes, tears streaking their cheeks. And now, you watching this, have a choice. Will you let Charlie's voice fade, or will you carry it forward? If this story touched you, please like this video, subscribe, and share your prayers for Erica and her children in the comments. Join our community to help us keep Charlie's mission alive. Together, we can ensure his legacy echoes louder than ever.